This is a table clock made by Quare, and it really does make a statement, this one. Look at that for a handle. I wouldn't dare pick it up because it weighs about 15 kilos. It's got 3 trains, the going train in the middle, you've got the quarters on this side, and it's Grande Sonnerie, so it strikes the hour every quarter as well as on the hour. So it tells you exactly the correct time every quarter of an hour. So I mentioned this is a Grande Sonnerie. It's also a Grande Sonnerie repeat. And so with this little cord, when I pull it, it'll tell you the time to the nearest quarter of an hour. So the time is actually just 1:03 so it should give a peal of 3 quarters and then strike the hour. Let's have a go. One. 1:03. The clock was made by Quare, and he was a Quaker, and he was also a very, very successful businessman, so that the two didn't compete in his mind. And this is a good quality Quare clock. Some of Quare's production are a bit doubtful. I think he was a badge engineering expert and would buy in movements and so on from other makers, and if he was short of time, he wasn't all that particular about the quality. But this really is a quality clock. I'm always a little bit suspicious about clocks which are signed on the dial, Quare. But to make absolutely sure, he's signed it again, Quare, London, so that engraved not only in the chapter ring but also on the dial itself. He was very proud of his productions. So you've now got pendulum regulation on the front. The figures don't really mean anything, but it just shows you to go faster or slower. And the winding key has a special piece on it to fit onto it, so you can adjust the rate of the clock from the front. And this is the strike silent on this side, so you can turn it from being strike as it is now to silent, or you can put it back again if you've taken it upstairs at night and you don't want it to strike all night. Since it's got a carrying handle, and you might even love it so much you wanted to take it to bed with you, carrying it upstairs, on this side you have a pendulum lock. You've got the pendulum loose and pendulum fast, and the pendulum is stopped, so I turn it round and lock it. And he was beginning to run out of ideas, I think, when he got to wondering what he was going to do here, because this is locks the repeat. It's repeat or no repeat, and that the repeat string is here, so I'm not quite sure what that really was done for. So if you're in the shop window and you see a carrying handle like that, it really makes a statement, doesn't it? That's Quare. Normally on a dial you've got little cherubs in the corner, but as I say, you've got these subsidiary dials, and they're all in floral mounts, so there's virtually no engraving on the dial at all. Yet on these mounts up on the top of the clock, you've got little cherub faces looking out at you. They're not repoussé, made out of sheet. It's a casting, and look at the beautiful detail of the cherub in the middle. And what a beautiful mount it is. The little cherub face here with these wonderful swirls on each side. So it's a complete integrated design, but the perfection in making the casting it amazes me, and I can't decide whether it was cast in the barrel shape to fit on the top of the clock, or whether it was a flat casting which was then bent after it had been formed to fit onto the curve at the top of the clock. The same design is repeated on the two mounts on the sides of the clock, and again the lovely cherub here looking out through the foliage, and in this case it is again designed to fit in the angles of the side of the case, and the whole thing just is integrated into the design and the effect on the clock itself. So on the top of the door is the sound fret with this lovely mount cast, beautifully cast and gilded, and it covers black silk behind to let the sound out from the bells. So that the hands are beautifully sculpted, thin, delicate hands for such a monster of a clock. The mock pendulum aperture here is embellished with these lovely little roundels, and what a beautiful hour hand and minute hand. Look how it's all pierced in the root of the minute hand and the fine, beautiful piercing of the hour hand. It's a real work of art. Wonderful aperture for the date again, and similar ornamentation matching that around the mock pendulum above. The two side mounts meet, leaving a gap in which Quare is boldly engraved at the top of the dial. So how's this for a set of half-hour markers? Wonderfully bold half-hour markers. D, Quare, London, and London at the bottom there. So the whole thing is covered in these wonderful mounts. It was certainly dressed up to look a part, and it certainly plays a part. I've mentioned that there's virtually no engraving on the front of the clock, but if I turn it round for you, wow, what a change. There we go. Wow, look at that. What a wonderful, wonderful backplate that is. The swirls of the engraving, all in beautiful harmony with each other. And the proud lambrequin here with engraved Dan Quare, London. It's even engraved on the lifting arm for the pendulum. You can just see the end of the rack disappearing behind the apron here. And it's all hidden then behind a lovely engraved apron which fits in with the same engraving on the back plate. It's beautifully done. The two sides here are the pendulum locks, and you can see them, so I have to stop the pendulum first. I don't like it clacking against it. And then it holds it locked, so we can now carry the clock round without damaging the pendulum swinging loose. And then when you have it on your bedside table, you can unlock it and swing the pendulum again. And away she goes with a lovely tick.